Hey vinyl community, music community, and my friends in the horror community. This is my second video in my soundtracks and scores series, and today we'll be looking at albums I through Z. And to kick things off, we have the soundtrack to I Am Sam. This was a Record Store Day 2019 release and was high on my list of albums to grab. And it contains Beatles songs that have been covered by some very notable artists. Amy Mann, Michael Penn do a duet of Two of Us. Sarah McLachlan does Blackbird. The Wallflowers, I'm Looking Through You. Eddie Vedder does You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Ben Harper covers Strawberry Fields Forever. Sheryl Crow, Mother Nature's Son. Ben Folds, Golden Slumbers. The Vines, I'm Only Sleeping. And then so many other artists, the Black Crowes doing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Howie Day doing Help, Nick Cave doing Let It Be. So an absolute must-have if you are a Beatles fan. This is a tremendous album, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. Next up is another Record Store Day release album, and this is the soundtrack to I Know What You Did Last Summer. And this album is one that I was after, and it has the cover of Deep Purple's Hush as done by Kula Shaker. It also has Typo Negative doing Summer Breeze. Another one I was excited about was Toad the Wet Sprocket covering Hey Bulldog. So I know what you did last summer, and happy to have this in my collection. Next is the soundtrack to It, Chapter 1. Pennywise. And this is the music of Benjamin Wallfish. This is just the score. I got this about a week or so ago, and happy to have it in my collection. I've listened to it, and I'm looking forward to picking up the It Chapter 2 soundtrack. All right, next is a 12-inch single from Gary Clark Jr., and this is from the Justice League. And again, another Beatles cover, and this is Gary Clark Jr. doing Come Together. I think this came on a red vinyl. Just look. Really like this version. We needed an updated version. Tired of hearing Aerosmith. No, this is just black vinyl, but still, excellent cover of the song. If you haven't heard it, check it out. So, Gary Clark Jr. and Junkie XL doing The Beatles Come Together. Alright, next we have an album that was released last Record Store Day, and this is the iconic performances from the Monterey International Pop Festival. This features Buffalo Springfield doing For What It's Worth, the Butterfield Blues Band doing Driftin' Blues, Grateful Dead doing Cold Rain and Snow, Simon and Garfunkel doing Sounds of Silence, Laura Nyro doing Poverty Train, Electric Flag doing Wine, Jefferson Airplane doing the classic song White Rabbit. Then you've got Janis Joplin doing Ball and Chain, The Who, My Generation, Hugh Masekela, Bajibula Bonke, The Healing Song. And then on the last side, side D, we've got Otis Redding doing I've Been Loving You Too Long to Stop Now, Jimi Hendrix doing Like a Rolling Stone, and the Mamas and Papas doing California Dreamin'. All right, next up is a soundtrack to A Nightmare on Elm Street, the music of Charles Bernstein. As a horror fan, this was a must-have for me. Nightmare on Elm Street was one of the first horror movies I can recall seeing, even before I saw Halloween. Freddy Krueger was always the cool monster villain, and then later it was Jason, and then Chucky, and then I discovered Michael Myers later. Excellent soundtrack. This is from Mondo. They always do a great job. Sounds great. All right, next is a compilation, and that is Now That's What I Call Halloween. This album is a double LP album, and it features the Halloween theme from John Carpenter, Rob Zombie's Dragula, Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, which is the theme from The Exorcist, Blue Oyster Cult doing Don't Fear the Reaper, In Excess doing Devil Inside, Warren Zevon doing Werewolves in London, Oingo Boingo, Dead Man's Party, and just so many other notable Halloween songs. Here's a back, you can pause it and take a look. Now that's what I call Halloween. Next up is the soundtrack to Pineapple Express. This album I purchased primarily for two songs, and that was Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue and Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison. I don't have a lot of hip-hop albums in my collection, but Poison was one of those songs that was one of my favorites back in my middle school days, and so I had to have this. And I really like that song from Eddie Grant. One of my earliest memories of watching MTV was hearing that song and seeing that video. So, Pineapple Express. Next is a soundtrack to one of my favorite movies from Quentin Tarantino, and that is Pulp Fiction. So many great songs on this. You've got the Jungle Boogie, Let's Stay Together, Bustin' Surfboards, Son of a Preacher Man, Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon by Urge Overkill. And aside from the music, it's just fun to hearing some of the dialogue from some of those notable scenes in the movie. Next is the John Williams soundtrack, and that is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones. I prefer Indiana Jones over Star Wars. I know. Blasphemy, right?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
But this has always just been one of my favorite scores from John Williams. He's done so many scores that I really like. Superman, which I don't own. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Of course, the Harry Potter movies. But John Williams, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Next is an album that was released by Real Gone Music. I've shared it before, but this is the soundtrack to The Return of the Living Dead. And it came on a green and white splattered vinyl. I'm not going to go in too much onto this album. If you want to hear more about it, I've posted some other videos, but this is Return of the Living Dead. Next is a compilation. This is called Rewind 6. This is an album of some original classics that have been reworked, re-edited, and rewound. I bought this primarily for a song called Bang Bang that was originally done by Nancy Sinatra. This album has it being done by a group called the Monophonics. It's a great cover. See some of the other songs on this. We've got the Electric Peanut Butter Company doing a song called Dreams that was originally by Fleetwood Mac. Let's see, we've got James Combs doing a cover of the Turtles' Happy Together. And then we've got Sean Lee's Ping Pong Orchestra doing a cover of Justin Timberlake's Rock Your Body. Interesting album, good album, so check it out. Next is the soundtrack to Rocky IV. Had to have this. Of course, it has the Eye of the Tiger on it. Living in America with James Brown. No Easy Way Out by Robert Tepper. One Way Street by Go West. And then the Training Montage. So, Rocky IV. Next is the soundtrack to William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. This movie came out, I want to say in '96, but it had some songs by some of my favorite artists at the time. You've got Number One Crush by Garbage. You've got Local God by Everclear. Whatever, I Had a Dream by the Butthole Surfers. The Cardigans doing Love Fool. And then Radiohead doing Talk Show Host. So, Romeo and Juliet. Excellent soundtrack. All right, next is a release that came out last record store day, and that is the soundtrack to Rush. This is an album by Eric Clapton that features mostly instrumental tracks, but it does include Tears in Heaven. And just as a fan of Eric Clapton, this is a must-have for me, and so I'm very happy to have this in my collection. Next is the soundtrack to She's the One, and it was done by Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. I'm a massive Tom Petty and Heartbreakers fan. I'm still crushed that he passed away last year. This has the song Walls, the Circus Edition, as well as Walls number 3. And just had to have this. I really like this track called Asshole. It's a fun track, but yeah, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, She's the One. Next is one that I shared before, and this is the soundtrack to my all-time favorite movie, The Silence of the Lambs. That's my dog clickety-clacketing in the background. Don't really have much more to say about it that I haven't already said. Just absolutely love this score, and yeah, check it out. All right, next is the soundtrack to Singles. Admittedly, I just saw this movie for the first time about 6 months ago. It wasn't the greatest, but I did enjoy the music that was featured in it. It's got Breath by Pearl Jam. It's got the Battle of Evermore. It's done by the Love Mongers. Let's see what else we got here. We got Drown by Smashing Pumpkins. Nearly Lost You by the Screaming Trees, and State of Love and Trust by Pearl Jam as well. And then Wood from Alice in Chains. Good album. Next is the second album from John Williams, and I said I wasn't a big fan of Star Wars. I am a fan, but I prefer Indiana Jones over Star Wars. But anyways, this is the Force Awakens soundtrack. This was a very cool album. It came with some holograms. So if you are spinning it on your turntable and you flash a light on it just right, you can see like the Millennium Falcon on one of them, and then you've got like a starfighter. I'm not sure what the correct term is. Again, I'm not a Star Wars buff, but you can see one of the renegade, whatever, fighter jets, planes, ships, spaceships, whatever you want to call it. But this is Star Wars from John Williams. Next is the soundtrack to The Sting. I got this one primarily for the song The Entertainer. I've just always liked that song. But yeah, this is the soundtrack to The Sting. Of course, it has the piano version of The Entertainer by Scott Joplin, and just one that I had to have for no other reason than that. Alright, the next several are soundtracks and scores from the Stranger Things series. This is the score to Stranger Things, the first season. That soundtrack or main theme was just awesome. I really like that synth-driven soundtrack. It was very reminiscent of John Carpenter. Next is the music from the Stranger Things. This has The Police doing Every Breath You Take, Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash, The Bangles doing Hazy Shade of Winter, Corey Hart, Sunglasses at Night, and there's so many other classic songs from that time period in the 80s. Here, I'll go ahead and show it to you if you want to pause it and take a look at it. Alright, next is the music from the Stranger Things Season 2. Again, synth-driven. Really like what I've heard on this one. I still haven't seen Stranger Things Season 3 yet. I'm only 4 episodes in. Just having a hard time getting into that season for some reason. And this is the Stranger Things 3 soundtrack. It's got some really great songs from the 80s. My favorite is Things Can Only Get Better by Howard Jones. You get other songs like Material Girl from Madonna, She's Got You by Patsy Cline, R.O.C.K. in the USA by John Mellencamp. You've got some Wham, you've got We're Not Yankovic, The Cars, Moving in Stereo, Corey Hart, Never Surrender. So this is Stranger Things 3. Next up is the soundtrack to the Suicide Squad. And this was a big hit among my daughters. They really liked that song from 21 Pilots, Heathens. Purple Lamborghini was another one they really liked. Sucker for the Pain by Lil Wayne, Wiz Khalifa, Imagine Dragons. Panic at the Disco doing Bohemian Rhapsody. So big favorite amongst my daughters. I like it too. And so this is the soundtrack to the Suicide Squad. All right, next we have the soundtrack to Tommy, the movie. Tommy is my favorite album by The Who, and this is from the actual movie that was filmed. So you've got Eric Clapton playing the preacher, of course Keith Moon playing Uncle Ernie. You got Anne Margaret and Roger Daltrey, Oliver Reed, Elton John as the Pinball Wizard. You got Tina Turner as the Acid Queen. So just notable artists doing the soundtrack to Tommy. And check it out. I feel like I'm rambling. I hate when I do that. Next is the soundtrack to Top Gun. The Danger Zone, baby. This is an excellent soundtrack. Kenny Loggins doing the Danger Zone. Take My Breath Away from Berlin. You get the Top Gun anthem. Just a great soundtrack. I'm looking forward to seeing Top Gun Maverick when it comes out next year. So, Top Gun. And the last one I will share with you is Hans Zimmer, Live in Prague. Hans Zimmer, again, is just one of those composers that just has so many memorable scores from movies. He did the score to Driving Miss Daisy, Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., The Crimson Tide, of course, The Da Vinci Code, Gladiator, Pirates of the Caribbean, True Romance, Rain Man, Man of Steel, and then the themes from The Amazing Spider-Man that featured Andrew Garfield. The Dark Knight movies, he did those, Interstellar and Inception. This is just a tremendous, there's that word again, tremendous. This is an excellent album that I really enjoyed listening to. I'm just kind of winding down. Just, again, some great themes from movie scores, and this is like a 4 LPs, but definitely worth investing in if you are a fan of Hans Zimmer and some of those movies. All right, that's it. I mean, I guess I could have shown Purple Rain, but I don't really store that with my soundtracks. I consider that more of, I guess, a Prince album. But yeah, that's all my soundtracks, A through Z. Hope you enjoyed this. If there's anything you want me to maybe do a needle drop on in the future, let me know down in the comments, and I'd be happy to oblige if I can get past the YouTube police. But until next time, hope you're having a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks. Bye.